Welcome back. Today we are going to discuss June 2021 current affairs based question. It is June 2021 and part 2. This will be the continuation of part 1. So we will be discussing 10 questions, means 10 topics. So let's start with the question number 11. Okay, the question number 11 talks about the clean energy ministerial. What is clean energy? It is non-fossil fuel based energy. Okay, non-fossil fuel based energy means what? Wind energy, solar energy, geothermal energy, biomass based energy, wave energy, tidal energy, and etc. So these are the sources of the clean energy. So the question is, why this clean energy is in news now? Clean energy is always in news, at least since 1990s. It has been in news. Okay, why it is in news? Because there is a growing percentage of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. How in atmosphere these gases are released? Who is responsible? According to IPCC in 2018, right? In 2018 alone, 80% of CO2 is released due to the fossil fuels. So what governments are doing? If this much greenhouse gases are released into atmosphere, what government is doing? Governments are already taken steps. This clean energy ministerial was established in 2009. In 2009 means immediately you have to understand that the famous summit. What is that? Copenhagen summit. Okay, what is the objective of this? Objective of this is to promote policies and schemes for development of clean energy technologies. Because this has been established in 2009 under UNFCCC. By UNFCCC, is it achieved its target? You can say not that much, because in 2013 and 14 India's contribution of solar energy to the electric generation was around 3 tetrawatt hour. In 2020 and 21 its contribution is 60 tetrawatt per hour. So it may look that from 3 tetrawatt hour to 60 tetrawatt hour in almost 7 years, it's a huge achievement. But do you think so? I don't think so, because our solar energy to our total energy production is just 3%. So it's not a big contribution, because we have to increase this percentage. But why government is not able to increase this? One of the biggest setback for India is lack of technology to promote solar panels production and other solar system components. We are highly dependent on imports. If you want to know the facts, these facts can be used in exam to substantiate your answer. That is, India's annual install solar PV manufacturing capacity, you know how much? What is the capacity? You know, just 3 megawatts. This is for PV cells, and 10 to 15 megawatts India's capacity to install, that is for PV modules, and 5 megawatts for solar inverters. So these are very very less. India should improve it. Coming to this question, under this there was an initiative, that industrial decarbonization initiative. This was started by India and UK. The main objective of this is to stimulate demand for low carbon industrial materials. So it is established at the Copenhagen. It's correct. India is member, yes. Initiated by the, yes. Answer is D. Industrial decarbonization initiative. This is what you should know. Not more than this. You need to know about this. Coming to the 12th question. 12th question is, consider the following statement regarding cryptocurrency and virtual currencies. Why I have asked this question? Because Supreme Court in Internet Mobile Association of India versus RBI has given a judgment on virtual currencies. To understand this judgment, you should know one thing, that in 2018, right, क्या हुआ? सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट दिया भाई. ओके, मतलब क्या, एक केस में कौन कौन इन्वॉल्व है? इंटरनेट एंड मोबाइल एसोसिएशन ऑफ इंडिया वर्सेस आरबीआई. ओके, आरबीआई कुछ गड़बड़ किया. ओके, इसलिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट को ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन गया. सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट दिया है. ओके, किसका ऊपर ये जजमेंट? वर्चुअल करेंसीज और क्रिप्टो करेंसीज का ऊपर दिया है. सो एक गड़बड़ क्या है? सो आरबीआई in 2018 it has released a circular to all the banks saying that not to deal or provide any services to individuals or business entities dealing with cryptocurrencies, and suspend all the relation with the individual or business entities who are already dealing with the cryptocurrencies. ऐसा कुछ ये सर्कुलर दिया है. मतलब क्या है, कौन कौन ये क्रिप्टो करेंसीज में इन्वॉल्व हुआ, उसके साथ आप कोई रिलेशनशिप नहीं रखना है, और यू शुड नॉट encourage them also. Okay, it has said. Then this Internet Mobile Association of India approached the court. The Supreme Court said that the ban is unconstitutional and lifted the ban. So is that mean that now cryptocurrency dealings legal? Yes, it is legal. No bank should stop you from trading or investing in cryptocurrencies. ओके, आप अब जाके, ये बहुत अच्छा न्यूज़ है ना, आप जाके क्या करते हैं, इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं ऑन क्रिप्टो करेंसी. बट हु इज़ द रेगुलेटर of this cryptocurrency? If you invest in shares, then regulator is SEBI. Okay, but who is the regulator? Who regulates the share? Share means it can be regulated by the SEBI. Who regulates this one? No one in India. Still talks are going on in India to who had to regulate these cryptocurrencies and whether there should be regulation for the cryptocurrency or not. So let's see the option. Indian citizens are allowed legally to invest. It is correct. Both RBI and SEBI regulate. No, nobody regulates till now. So remove two. Answer is D. Cryptocurrency transaction requires intermediaries. It is wrong because intermediaries required for whom? Financial institutions, but not for the cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are completely decentralized. They uses which technology? Blockchain technology. What is this meaning? You are doing transaction with a Amazon. So how you are doing transaction? You're sending money to something and this will accept and send money to Amazon. Okay, Amazon will deliver your product. What is this? This is known as financial intermediaries. Even you would have observed this when you are doing Paytm recharge. Sometimes Paytm says that your bank is not accepting any cards now. Your bank is slow now. What does that mean? Because bank is acting as an intermediary between you and Paytm for your service to be delivered. But in cryptocurrencies, this is not the issue. There won't be any intermediaries. So the delay in such cases, in slow or not accepting, this delay will not be there. And coming to 13th question. Which of the following are short-lived climate pollutants? What is this short-lived climate pollutants? In the name itself it is there that the pollutants means gases released in the atmosphere will stay in atmosphere for short period of time, but their impact will be on global warming will be very high. So the question is carbon dioxide short-lived climate pollutant? No, carbon dioxide is not short-lived climate pollutant. Which are the pollutants are short-lived? Methane, black carbon, HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons, and troposphere ozone. These four are short-lived climate pollutants. As I said, these are very powerful, right, on the global warming. The powerful impact will be there. That's why climate and clean air coalition was launched by UNEP. Who are the members of this climate clean air coalition? Are Bangladesh, Canada, Dhaka, Mexico, Sweden, USA, etc. These are actually founding partners. Later on many countries have joined. Do you think India is partner or not? Yes, India is partner. So what is the answer for this? Methane, black carbon, HFCs, and tropospheric ozone. All the above. Come to the 14th question. It is a direct question. International Energy Agency. Reports are released by the International Energy Agency. World Energy Outlook Report, World Energy Investment Report, Net Zero by 2050. These I have explained in May current affairs videos. Okay, so you know this. So when you know this, 333 is correct. So World Energy Outlook report, this is International Energy Agency. So energy meets, so it is correct, it should be correct. Then this also should be correct, so answer is D. It releases all the above, all reports. What else report it will release? It will release Global Energy and CO2 Status Report, World Energy Statistics Report, Energy Technology Perspective Report. So this is what you should know about this. And India is member of this agency or not? India is not member of it. It is associate member. Only OECD members, countries are members of this. It is part of the OECD. It is actually started by the OECD organization members. But you should know one thing here about this. I told you that OC, to become a member of this organization, person that member should be member of OECD, but not all the members of OECD are the members of International Energy Agency. Because this condition is there, you should not think that International Energy Agency is completely linked to the OECD, but it is International Autonomous Body, means International Autonomous International Governmental Organization. Come to the 15th question. Which of the following banks have mandatorily follow priority sector lending? So it is in news. So UPSC may ask like this: which banks are mandatory? It is mandatory for which bank to lend loans under priority sector? So what about regional rural banks? Is it eligible? Is it mandatory for it? Cooperative banks, is it mandatory? Small finance bank, is it mandatory? Payment bank, is it mandatory? If you don't know all these things, doesn't matter. If you know that payment banks functions, then you can easily answer this question. How? Because payment banks function is what? Do you think it can advance loans? It cannot, right? If they cannot advance loans, how come this priority sector lending can be implemented? Only by knowing this, these payment bank functions, you can eliminate 4. Answer is A. What is this priority sector lending means? If bank has 100 rupees with them, the government says that 40 rupees, if bank is going to lend 80 rupees, in this at least 40 rupees you should lend to the priority sectors. Government will say which will come under the priority sectors, like agriculture, solar panels, manufacturing in MSMEs, exports, etc. Anything government adds into this list, these banks are mandatory to lend to these sectors. These 40 rupees, government also fixes the percentage, how much they have to lend to the priority sector. So it's mandatory, right? So it's an obligation on the bank to lend. So come to the 16th question. Consider the following statement regarding nano urea liquid. It was in news. It's actually science and technology question. So UPSC may ask because urea is a big issue in India. Why it is biggest issue? Because government gives subsidy for urea every year around 50,000 crores. It's a big amount, very big amount just for urea, because it is very important it for the agriculture. From when it became very important? When government has introduced green revolution, HYV seeds, high yield variety seeds, to reduce this burden. It's obviously burden. 50,000 crores is not a joke, right? It's a burden on government. Every year it have to give. To reduce this burden, government has taken various steps. One of the step is this nano urea liquid invention or discovery. Okay, what does it says? It is actually launched by IFFSO. What is this? It is Indian Farmer Fertilizer Cooperatives launched world's first nano urea liquid. Okay, is it correct or not? It is a fact. Definitely you should know. It is in news also. Okay, if UPSC have to ask, definitely it will ask with by using this first to make you confused. You may think in examination, if you don't know this thing, you may manipulate and think how come it will be first. Nanotechnology was introduced in India very long back, so this first cannot be answered. So you may eliminate one and you may tick answer as B, then answer will go wrong. It can curtail the requirement of the conventional urea by at least 50%. It is 10% cheaper than the cost of bag of conventional urea. All these things are facts, because sometimes what happens, UPSC asks questions, not sometimes, every year UPSC asks 1 or 2 questions or 3 questions based on completely facts. If you know it, you will do it, otherwise you have to leave. This is completely based on facts, because if nano urea liquid were introduced, we all know that it is for benefiting farmers and government from the burden. Okay, we all know this. So UPSC will not ask those questions. Definitely if it have to ask this question, it will ask based on the facts only. So the facts answer is D. This is correct, this is correct, this is correct. It is cheaper, 10% cheaper, and at least it reduces the conventional requirement of conventional urea by at least 50%. See, if it is reduces really conventional urea by 50%, how much burden it will reduce? If government is giving 50,000 crores as subsidy, okay, then it will reduce at least 25,000 crores, right? So it's a very big innovation. It's so come to the 17th question. Consider the following statements: foreign portfolio and foreign direct investment. Why I have asked this question? This question I have asked because in last video I have explained that GDP has contracted to by 7.3%, right? Minus 7.3%. So GDP has contracted means what? Investment is not there. Okay, investment is not there in the economy. In the economy, investment is not there. Investment in the economy means what? Which can provide you employment, okay, and wealth generation. It is not there. Okay, this is about the GDP. But what's happening to the foreign direct investments? Foreign direct investment, total foreign direct investment has registered $81.7 billion. That is 10% more than what it has registered in the previous years. In the previous year means what? It has registered in 10% more in 2020 to 2021, more than 2019 to 2020. But this period we have seen that GDP, the first quarter in the GDP in the first quarter, second quarter was completely in minus, the growth, and the third quarter the GDP growth is just 0.4%. In the fourth quarter it is 1.2%, right? Overall in all the four quarters combinedly the growth is minus 7.3%, right? This is about the GDP. But how come in 2020-21 the total FDI has increased 10% more than 2019 to 2020? If this increase, if it is a foreign direct investment which causes long term investment and investment in managerial side, then it will increase, it should have increased employment, right? If employment increases, wage, people's income will increase. If people income increases, demand will increase, but demand is all time low. Now you can see the demand is high because of supply constraint. Inflation is high because of supply constraint, not because of demand. But these things has not happened. Still India's total FDI has increased. How it has possible? Because these FDI, it shows that India's FDI has increased. True, it is true, it has increased, but where when GDP is declining, there is one thing which is increasing, that is stock. At stock exchanges, stocks are increasing. The value of stocks, it went from 6,000 point 26,000 points to 50,000 points. This is increasing, not this one. So what is this? Who will invest here? Who will invest? Here GDP to increase, who have to invest? It is a direct investment needed. Direct investment means which leads to the increase in output of industries. Okay, but here it is investment in stocks or equities. This is just for short term. The sole aim of this investment is to make profits. Here the sole aim is to expand the business and to increase their output. This is a clear difference between the direct investment and portfolio investment. Also in India, net portfolio investment in 2019 and 20, how much is just $1.4 billion. But in 2020 and 21, how much it is almost $37 billion. Or 38, and it has seen around 6,800% increase. 6,800% increase. So FPI has increased, and another thing which has increased, it is repatriation and disinvestment flows has increased. Repatriation and disinvestment is what? If Indian company is there, it has invested in Saudi Arabia, example, they have sold their shares and their companies, whatever, and they came up into they took that money to India. Like that the inflows has increased. How? Here they will sell in which currency? In US dollars. They will bring these dollars into India and they will exchange with rupees. Means what? They are bringing in foreign currency. Do you think with this money there is anything benefit here, benefit happening in India? No, but it looks like, it shows that foreign currency is increasing, foreign inflow is increasing to India, but actually nothing is happening, nothing benefiting with this inflow, nothing India is benefiting from this inflow. So this is also accounts to the 47% of the total gross inflows. Okay, total gross inflows means how much in this $81 billion. If it is 47, take it as 50, so around $40.5 billion, around $40 billion comes from the repatriation and disinvestment, and $38 billion from the portfolio investment. The rest is from the FDI. Moreover, the net FDI, if you check, the net FDI has registered minus 2.3% growth in India. The net FDI in India registered just 0.8% growth. Direct investment into India is minus 0.4%. What is direct investment into India? That is net FDI plus FDI by India. Means what? Tata or Reliance going and investing in American companies or in European companies, or establishing industries in America or Europe. That is it is outflow, it is inflow. Then this is minus 2.4. Means what? The people moving out of India to invest in foreign is more than the people coming into India and investing in India. So you should not be fooled when you see in news that FDI, the total FDI has increased by 10% compared to the last financial year. This is wrong, because it is done by the foreign portfolio. It is a short term and the aim is to make profits, because if these people are going and investing in small amount of shares, okay, these will benefit. Think example, in Reliance they have invested, okay, like Facebook has invested in Reliance, example. Reliance will benefit with that money, okay, because Reliance is selling the shares, okay, and Reliance will have that money, okay. It is not going to benefit anywhere India, okay. If Facebook comes and established a company, then it's try to expand the business, then it will help India, because the employment will create and the output of the Facebook will increase, and some other digital economy will increase, like that it will benefit India. Just by investing in shares, it will not benefit India. It is just for profits. So let's see the options. The foreign portfolio is a short-term investment. This is correct. It is highly favorable for the economic growth. It is wrong, because you imagine now this much FPA came and invested in India. How much? 6,800% growth is there. Totally they have invested in this financial year 2020 to 2021 financial year, $38 billion, right? This is for short term. What is their aim? The aim is to make profits with this whatever they invested. Tomorrow imagine if they feel that economy is not doing well, what they will do? No, immediately they will sell off. The next minute they will sell off all the shares and they will move out of the country. All the money will move out of the country. So what happens if these $38 billion at a time, if they move away, what happens? Because this can be translated in rupees very easily, in currencies, in foreign currency very easily, because that's how the stock market works. Okay, if they move out, what happens? This much of money is moving suddenly out of the country, so it will affect our rupee value. That's it, right? They are selling it for rupee and collecting all the rupees, and they will exchange it with the dollar. Means what? They want dollar. They want dollar. So the demand for the dollar will increase, and demand for, they don't want rupee. So the demand for the rupee will decrease. So $1 will equal to 1000 rupees. It will become. Okay, this is how the depreciation happens. If this happens, then India will be affected a lot. And moreover, this is about the economy and investment, the sentiments. See, in investment, the sentiments are very important. Okay, if everybody is leaving India, what others will feel? Why we should go and invest? We should not invest in India. So like that, economy will fall. So the short term investment, what we call it as a balloon. Okay, this balloon will grow. At one point of time it will burst. This is how it works. So this is wrong. The foreign direct investment is long term investment is correct. It is associated with stocks and bonds on an exchange. It is wrong, because it is associated with what? Taking managerial control or stake, and deals with the output, not with the stocks or bonds which looks for profits. It also want profit, but how? By controlling the management. Okay, here you only see Facebook came and bought 9% of the shares of Reliance. By buying 9%, do you think Facebook can actually exercise control on Reliance? No. Who is having the remaining 99% of shares? Example I am saying, with the Mukesh Ambani. Do you think this guy can dominate Mukesh Ambani? No, he cannot dominate. Okay, means what? His investment only benefits Mukesh Ambani, not to the country. And to Facebook, in long term, in short term, it will benefit, because if Reliance prices goes up, if one share is equal to 100 rupees today, if tomorrow one share is equal to 500 rupees it becomes, then immediately Facebook will sell off everything, and Facebook will benefit in short term. But what about the country? Country will not benefit. If at all, if Mukesh Ambani pays taxes, with these taxes country will benefit. That's it. Not in terms of GDP. So answer is this is wrong. So answer is D. Come to the 18th question. Consider the following statement. The National Commission for Protection of Children Rights is a Indian statutory body. Yes, true, it is a statutory body, right? Why it is a statutory body? It was established by the Act of Parliament. What is that act? Commission for Protection of Child Rights Act in 2005. In 2005, what else came? What is one very important thing happened? That is RTI Act. Anyway, this is a different issue, and so it is statutory body. The chairperson of this body is Ministry of Women and Child Development. Okay, you don't know this. I'll ask you. In Lakshmikant Polity, there is one body known as National Commission for STs. Who is the chairman of this? Is it Ministry of Tribal Affairs? Is it? No, right? For constitution body itself, for constitution body, Ministry of Tribal Affairs is not a chairman. Means ministry is not a chairman. How can for a statutory body ministry will be chairman? Is a question mark. So whether you know or not, you can directly eliminate this. Okay, answer is one only. Coming to the 19th question, consider the following passage. It originates in the Western Ghats and empties into the Palk Strait. It passes through Srivilliputturu and Megamalai tiger reserves, and it gets about 80% of its water from Periyar Dam. Okay, which of the following rivers? It's asking which rivers are described in the above, which river is described in the above passage. Is it Kaveri? Is it Periyar? It's very simple, right? Because here Periyar dam, 80% of the water of for this river comes from the Periyar dam. So it's the dam is made on which river? It is a Periyar river. The dam is made, right? On the across the Periyar river, the dam is constructed. So the water, the river is which one? Is it Periyar? If you think answer is Periyar, then it's wrong. Because the dam is constructed across the Periyar river, but the river will flow. This water is released to the another river. What is that river? That is Vaigai river. It is actually in Tamil Nadu. It flows like this. It empties here. Why it is in news? Because of Sri Villuputtur Meghalaya Tiger Reserves. Okay, so you should know about this river. You should not get confused if UPSC asks in examination, because if at all if it asks, definitely it will mention this sentence to confuse you, and it will give option Periyar river also. Because very simple, if a dam is constructed on Periyar river, how come this same dam will become a water source for the Periyar river? You are constructing dam because Periyar river has lot of water, right? The Periyar river, this logic itself is wrong if you think Periyar river as an answer. So come to its answer is C. Come to the 28th question. With reference to the Chemical Weapons Convention Act 2000, which of the following statements is or correct? It provided for the establishment of a national authority for chemical weapons convention. National Authority for Chemical Weapons Convention is a office under the Cabinet Secretary of India. The act was enacted to comply with the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. The act was enacted to comply with the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. Means what? This act was made to adhere with the Organization of Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. Now the question is, this organization comes under the Cabinet Secretary of India or not? Whether you know it or not. Yes, it comes under the Cabinet Secretary of India. You should understand this. And the National Authority for Chemical Weapons established under the Chemical Weapon Convention or not? Yes, in the name itself it is there. So it is correct. It is correct. The act was enacted to comply with the organization. It is correct. So answer is, when one is correct, automatically 3 will get correct. So 2 is also correct. Answer is D. Here what you should know? Here you should know about the Cabinet Secretary of India. The office comes under the Cabinet Secretary of India. Is all the members of the country, all the countries of the world are members of this organization? Is a question mark. No, because only 3 countries are not members. Who are there? Egypt, North Korea, South Sudan. But there is one country which has signed but not ratified. Which is that country? That is Israel. So this is what you should know about this organization, and it got Nobel Prize in 2000, Nobel Peace Prize in 2013, as of I remember. Please do check on internet about this. Mostly it will be 2013 only. So answer is D. So that's it for today. Thank you.